You're listening to the third series of Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we all climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. Two. Words are free to spend from a bank account with no end. Words can hurt and hate. Words can free and liberate. The absence of words can bring pain, walking life's lonely paths again. These words are also free, but to show what you mean to me, I write them through the pain, another broken heart consumed with blame. Of all life's people, you to me have no equal.
What does the title "To" mean, and what lies behind these rhymes, Andrew?
Well, it's spelled T-O-O, which, as you know, is...
Also?
Yes, but it's also... It's a play on T-W-O, as in two, as in one person and one person making two in a couple. And this poem is about coming out of a relationship which hasn't worked out and into another relationship and trying to start again.
I read this poem and I thought this must be about communication in relationships. Am I wrong? How do you use words? Because you talk about words. Is it about communication as a metaphor for communication, or am I totally on the wrong track?
No, with any poem, it's down to individual interpretation. So, your interpretation of this, I'm not going to say that's right or wrong, but yes, you can look at it that way, is that we are talking about words here. The words are very underrated. There are words of love and there are words of hate. Their words bring different emotions and feelings depending on how you use them. But they are free
or withhold them, as you point out.
Yes.
The lack of words can also be painful.
Yes, I think I wrote that more about
loneliness.
Sitting in silence, yes. So an absence of somebody with you, talking to you, and you just listening to your own thoughts. Or maybe, as on occasion I have done myself, which I'm sure I'm not alone, you'll fill the quietness with your own voice. You will talk to yourself sometimes, and not in, a strange way, but just to hear a voice.
Two is a part of a segment of the book From the Mountain to the Waterfall, which is called Into the Woods. Can you explain the concept of being into the woods in a relationship?
So it's... I don't want to do the geography of mountains, but essentially there are often woods or forests on the lower levels of the mountains. So this is about after you've started off, you're not quite on the ascent to the peak yet, but you're kind of in the wooded parts at the bottom. So you can't really see very well where you've come behind, but you can't really see very well where you're going in front either. So it's a metaphor for a stage in a relationship when you're trying to not look behind you, but you can't really see forward either at the same time.
So it's finding your way on the way to the ascent.
You have to go through the forest to get to the peak, yes.
And does it also mean that there is potential to get lost, or are the poems about getting lost in a relationship in the segment which is called Fog?
So, you've hiked more extensively than I. It's easy to get lost on walks. I guess if you can see the peak ahead of you, then you roughly know where you're going. If you can't see because of the trees, or the trees are too tall, you are using a map or a compass, or someone's leading you in that direction. So it's not about being lost in that sense. I think that is better explained in being lost in the fog, which comes at another point in the book. But it's more to do with you can only see the trees in front of you. That's it. It's just trees.
Or you can't see a tree from many trees.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's true as well. I mean, like I say, you've been lost many times. So tell me about being lost in a in a real forest.
One advice that I give to hikers is to not come too far down and enter the woods. You rightly point out there is line on mountains which is below 2,000 meters where you have forests. So when you're not sure where you're going, if you're above that line, I always advise people do not rush down so they can have an overview of the terrain. So you're right, when you're in the woods, you have to have either a compass or a map or a guide who knows where they're going. And because a relationship is a relationship usually between two people, it's very difficult to have a map or a guide that can tell you where it's going.
I was going to add there that, you know, the option in a relationship is not to go back, but of course that is also an option, is that you may not pursue this relationship. You may actually go backwards out into the clearing again to start that journey once more. So this book applies to not just one relationship but many.
Yes, I have noticed that From the Mountain to the Waterfall is about your relationships with different people. It's certainly not about the stages of one relationship, but in some ways, although each and every relationship we have in our lives is an individual relationship, there's certainly stages of relationships that one goes through in any of their relationships.
Yes, but like every hike up a mountain is not the same. Neither is every relationship.
Now that we have heard what the poem 2 is about, would you like to read it again for our listeners?
2. Words are free to spend, from a bank account with no end. Words can hurt and hate, words can free and liberate. The absence of words can bring pain, walking life's lonely paths again. These words are also free, but to show what you mean to me, I write them through the pain, another broken heart consumed with blame. Of all life's people, you to me have no equal.
You've been listening to Behind the Rhymes, The Mountain We'll Climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. You can find all poems from this series in my book, From the Mountains to the Waterfall of Love and Relationships, which is available to buy at Amazon and Waterstones, where you can also find my first book, After the Applause.
Thank you for joining us on this poetic journey. And if you want to come on our real mountain hikes, have a look at our website, hikingthebalkans.com, and drop us an email at welcome@hikingthebalkans.com.